Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more slug testing, and today we've got another interesting combination that we haven't tested yet. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what it can give us, because you really don't see a whole lot of people testing these type of slugs through this type of a setup to see what they can do. So I guess we'll see what I can get out of them. But as for those slugs I got out here today, I picked up some of the classic Remington Slugger 12 gauge rifled slugs. These ones are the 12 gauge 2 3/4 inch 1 ounce rifled slug moving about 1560 feet per second. So your very classic slug loading that in the past, before I actually started filming stuff, has done pretty well through some old smooth bores and things like that I've tried them through. But I don't know what we're going to get through today's setup out of them. And as for today's setup, I brought out my Remington 870 special purpose with an 18.5 inch fully rifled cantilever barrel. Up on top is a loopholed VX1 2-7x28, and this is my typical slug gun that I use most often. And now yes, it is a fully rifled barrel, and every time we do a test similar to this, I do have to explain it, but yes, you can shoot a lead Foster style rifled slug through a rifled barrel perfectly fine. It's safe to do so, but it doesn't automatically guarantee you will see any better performance from it. It could be the same as a smooth bore, it could be worse, it could be tremendously better, but this is my slug gun and I want to see how they're going to do. And with that being such a short barrel, I do not expect to see the full 1560 velocity from it either, especially since the boss claims that a 30-inch semi-spec barrel was used to get that velocity, so we don't have anywhere near that. But it will be at least interesting to see what a classic rifled slug like these Remington Sluggers can do through a rifled barrel in that 870. But as for today's test, we're going to run it the same as we always do with these slug tests. We're going to shoot a 3-shot group at 50 yards and another 3-shot group at 100 yards. It's not a perfect scientific test, but it's what I have to work with, and it will at least give us an idea of if this combination is any good or not. And of course, all of those shots will be through the chronograph as well, so we can see what kind of velocity we're actually pushing. So enough talking, let's get you guys set up with a view of these targets. We'll start at 50, then we'll move out to 100, and then bring everything back here to the bench and see what we get. I don't know what we're going to see. As for groups, could be good, could be terrible, could be somewhere in the middle, but we don't know until we try it. So let's go shoot our groups and see what it gives us. Alright, so let's run through our velocities here real quick before we actually take a look at our target and see how close we did get out of my much shorter 18.5 inch barrel to what the boss claims at 1560. And to be honest, I'm rather surprised. It says they tested it through a 30-inch barrel, and I am nowhere near that, but we still had pretty decent velocities overall. They didn't seem super consistent, but I do believe all of them were probably legitimate readings, since there's no sabot or anything here to mess with the chronograph. So for a high, we had 1542. For a low, we had 1302, which that could have been an error, but I kind of doubt it, because every one of these shells did feel very slightly different in the recoil department. So I doubt that was an error. But that still gave us an average at 1485. And of course, here's all your energy numbers and stuff for a 1 ounce slug right at the muzzle, so you can see what kind of energy we're actually pushing. And really, 1485 on a 1560 claim is not bad at all for our barrel, that's for sure. But our extreme spread was 240, which that low 1300s definitely opened that up quite a bit. And the standard deviation was 76. So I mean, it's kind of to be expected. They're not the most consistent velocity rounds, since they are a very basic, kind of cheapy loaded 12 gauge rifled slug, but at least we saw somewhere close to what the boss claimed. So not bad for velocities, but what kind of accuracy did they actually give us through that rifled barrel? Alright, so now let's take a peek here at our targets and see what kind of accuracy we got, because things got pretty interesting there. We'll start with the left-hand target. That was our 3-shot group at 50 yards, and it wasn't terrible. I mean, these 3 bullet holes right here are all plenty good enough to take a deer or something with them at 50 yards. It is far from the best we've seen by a long shot, but I'll measure it and see what we got. All right, so at 50 yards, we had a 2.41-inch group. So just under 2.5 inches. Not terrible, but typically with a good slug, that gun will pretty much put all three of them touching each other at 50 yards. So usable, but not fantastic. And on camera, it kind of does look like, especially this far left hole is a little bit oblong, but that is not the case here in person. They were all flying stable today, without a doubt. But let's move over to our 100-yard target, which got pretty interesting here. Our first shot was right here in the middle between the two of them. Our second shot was way down here low. It's kind of hard to see with the snow in the background, but this is the best angle I could get with the glare this morning, but it's this hole right here. So our third shot I took was up here. So I figured, well, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, even though I felt good about every one of these trigger pulls. And we took our fourth shot, and it's way down over here as well, right at the tip of my little pointer right there. So that right there is not good whatsoever. It would not surprise me if at that distance, somewhere between 50 and 100 yards, they went subsonic. And we've seen before where when slugs go subsonic, they start kind of destabilizing a little bit and losing some of their accuracy. And I think that's probably what we saw here. They weren't anything amazing at 50 yards, but if they were able to keep the same general accuracy numbers just out at 100, we should have went from about a 2.5 to a 5-inch group or so. And that is tremendously more than that. But I will measure it and give you guys the numbers. So I did measure from the farthest 2 points across, which is this bullet hole right over here, to this guy right up here, and that's 10.25 inches worth of spread. So definitely not at all what I want to see. Now, like I already mentioned, it is perfectly fine to shoot rifled slugs through a rifled barrel, but it clearly doesn't always mean you're going to automatically see good results from it. But we don't know how something is going to perform until we try it, which is pretty much what I did here. And I think we pretty clearly got our answer that this is not a combination that I would really want to use on a hunt. I mean, 50 yards, sure, it's going to get the job done just fine. Past that, I don't think I'd really want to push my luck. And yes, my scope is perfectly fine on there. It's a good quality, expensive scope. All the mounting is good on it. I've already checked it. We're good to go there. No concerns from me on the scope. So this is just a case of real world results just not being exactly what we want to see. But that's why we test things to see what happens. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about those results right there? At 50 yards, it's nothing impressive, but it would be plenty good enough for a deer hunt. Once you get past that, I think you start really pushing your luck. Now, is that a good example for every setup that fires these slugs through it? Most likely not. I know that I have personally seen better with them through other older smoothbore setups and stuff that I have tested before I actually started filming stuff. So I know they're capable of better, without a doubt. But through my much shorter, fully rifled barrel, it's just not a fantastic combination at the little bit longer distances, which isn't really a complete surprise considering what we're working with here today. But I guess leave your thoughts in the comments. Is it about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of the Remington Slugger rifled slugs? And if so, what has been your results with them? Have you tested them through a rifled barrel or a rifle choke or a smoothbore or whatever? And what kind of groups have you seen out of them? Let me know all your thoughts down below. So with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like to. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.